and within days have her in the alley on her knees in front of a John. When Fante and Fenton would meet a man for the first time at their sacred turf at Musso's bar, drinks in their hands, they would probe the interlocutor in conversation, find a weakness in his personality, and then insult him, usually within the first 5 minutes of their introduction. Look, I realize we've just met, but having listened to what you have to say, there's nothing about you that I find remotely interesting. You don't belong here. If a man could hold his own with either writer, eventually they might become friends. Once at a party, I heard my father confront a man by saying, if I wanted to, I could destroy your life in 20 words or less. This was no glib aside or idle threat. John Fante and Frank Fenton took no prisoners. Once at the back room of Stanley Rose's bookstore became a place where poker was played and many a tongue lashing was administered. Hollywood was now well stocked with transplanted novelists and playwrights from the East who had moved west to cash in on the big paychecks Hollywood offered. Most disliked being uprooted and having their talent misused, and they endlessly berated the film industry and each other, blistering arguments over everything from studio bosses and politics to Broadway and the Pulitzer candidates to the best whorehouses in Laurel Canyon bounced off the walls. Aside from literature and booze and poker and studio work, this crew had one vital thing in common. They cashed their fat paychecks every week without fail. In the late 30s, drinking and hanging out with his pals at Musso and Frank's Grill became a daily habit for my father. At the time, an incident took place that perfectly describes the Hollywood writer's lifestyle of the era. My father's friend, the screenwriter Al Bazarides, had been asked by a studio boss to watch William Faulkner. Faulkner was being paid handsomely to write movies, but his drinking was out of hand, and more frequently he was becoming a no-show at the studio lot. The producer needed someone to escort Faulkner to and from work. Bazarides, a junior writer, got the job. Early one afternoon, Bazarides burst into Musso and Frank's Grill in a panic and grabbed John Fante by the shoulder. Faulkner wasn't answering his phone at the Hollywood bungalow, and it would mean Bazarides' ass if he didn't get the little prick to the script conference by 1 o'clock. He desperately needed help and was sure Faulkner was drunk and would take at least 2 guys to sober him up and deliver him to Gower Street. My father agreed to help, and he and Bazarides set off to Faulkner's bungalow. When they arrived, a drunken row between Faulkner and his wife Estelle was in progress. The couple refused to answer the door. Bazarides forced a window open and 2 men climbed in. Bill was dressed for work but drunk. Estelle was naked on the bed, a fifth of bourbon between her legs, screaming and throwing what was ever handy at her husband. John Fante went to Faulkner's aid, pulled him into the living room, and then returned to assist Bazarides. Estelle was on her feet now, swinging her bourbon bottle at Bazarides. The 2 men subdued her, covered her nakedness with a sheet. At least for the moment, all seemed under control. Then a drunk and angry William Faulkner re-entered the room, and the battle commenced again. Estelle flung the sheet aside, emptied her bottle of bourbon on the mattress, grabbed a box of matches, and screamed, "You leave this house, you shit, and I'll burn it to the ground." "I'm going to work," Faulkner slurred. I told them I'd be there. I made a commitment, and I'm going to keep it." No sooner had the words escaped his lips than Estelle struck a match and the bed was in flames. "You shit," she screamed, while laughing and dancing naked on the bed. "Now you can go to work. Have a swell day." Thank you.